Hey there and welcome. You are listening to the Parkview Global Podcast. We are so excited for you to join the conversations between our global missions hosts and our amazing guests. Don't forget to follow our social media accounts at Parkview Global. Now, enjoy the podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Parkview Global Podcast. My name is Bill Carroll and I am the Global Pastor at Parkview Christian Church right outside of Chicago. As always, I am joined by Christy Mullen, Parkview's Africa Coordinator. Welcome, Christy.
Hello, everyone.
We want to invite you to follow along with us as we welcome a different one of our global partners on the podcast each month. Today we are joined by two of Parkview's own, David and Katie Spear. David and his new wife Katie are moving to Nottingham, England in about a month to join and train with an international university campus ministry called Global Scope. Global Scope is a network of campus ministries on major university campuses in places like England, Spain, Mexico, Scotland, the Netherlands, Germany, Uruguay, Chile, Thailand, and Australia. So they are everywhere. And each ministry has their own approach to engaging students from around the world, welcoming them into community and sharing the love of Jesus. We are super excited to have David and Katie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
We are super excited for you guys as you get ready to, in the next month even-ish, possibly moving over to England, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So we always try and start easy. First things first. You've been married for about 1 year now, and you're about to pack up everything you own and move to England. How many wedding presents will you have, that you received a year ago will you re-gift before leaving?
That's really funny because we planned wedding gifts around moving.
Oh, well done.
So
Right.
we did
Well
a lot of European gift cards and stuff.
That's great.
And like Airbnb gift cards and
that's
Ryanair
Yeah.
gift cards.
Uh-huh.
And
Nice.
A
stuff
lot
like
of people
that.
went off the book though, and so we definitely have like tons of established 2019 Mr. and Mrs. wedding gifts and all kinds
Yes.
of things that we're definitely rehoming. But
That's a nice
Yeah.
way to put it.
yeah, so
How
it was
many-
regifted.
How many first year of marriage Christmas ornaments did you get?
None.
Wow.
Well, your mom got us a whole set, and then
Oh,
I know
yeah.
a couple, like my sister did.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Yeah,
this.
we have a
You
whole
can
box
tell
of
how much
Christmas
that meant
ornaments.
to me.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, super sentimental.
I am sure you'll use suitcase space to move those over with you, so
Yes.
that's good. Yeah.
100%.
Second question. We recently interviewed Tom Gallant on a previous episode, and Tom is the leader of one of the other England Global Scope teams.
Yeah.
David, do you know how to pronounce the name of the city that you are traveling to? Because Tom took about 5 minutes of the podcast to explain and correct
love
me on
him.
how to pronounce the name they work in. So I am now an expert in the Queen's English, so if you need help, I'm just saying.
If that were true, you wouldn't have mispronounced it in the first paragraph.
Yes.
Oh, yikes.
So you're moving to Nottingham. All the H's are silent. I found out.
Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Nottingham, Birmingham.
I put like a space in there now, so it's like Nottingham. But
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, not like Birmingham,
Yeah.
Alabama.
Exactly, which is what Tom said. So shout out to Tom. All right, guys. Again, super glad to have you. And I mean, David, you've been around for about 10 years at Parkview, which is like half your life. You've been an intern on staff with student ministries. And we're super proud of you guys and so excited to be a part of what you're doing. Tell us your story. Tell us about how God led you to want to work with university students in England and in Europe.
Yeah. So I probably late high school realized that I was really driven towards youth ministry. And so I went to college with that in mind, doing youth ministry, high school, junior high ministry. And then I got a minor in children's ministry, and I got a minor in biblical Hebrew. And the whole idea was I want to do youth ministry. Well, in college, in a college town, a Christian college town with at least 5 churches of the same denomination around that school, I realized they have nothing for college students. Nothing. They would do like once a month, like a brunch afterwards, but it was for the whole congregation. It's just they were focusing on the college students. And I thought that was kind of weird. I thought that didn't make sense. This is the next generation of leaders in the church and stuff like that. You should probably focus, especially in a Christian college town. The churches should be taking special notice of those students.
Yeah.
And so I started to get very, passionate about like campus ministry and focusing on university students and stuff like that. And right around that time, I had this weird God moment where I knew I needed to go to Ireland. I just didn't know why. And that took me a roundabout way to Nathan Jones, who then directed me towards CMF, because Nathan was on the Birmingham team way back in the day. And so he was like, hey, talk to this guy. He might have the answers to the questions you're asking. I'm not saying ask him for a job, because they don't have anything in Ireland, but maybe he has some of the answers to the questions you're asking. And so I emailed the guy. His name's Phil. I emailed Phil. He didn't get back to me for like 7 months via email, because he was on sabbatical. And when he finally emailed back, we talked, and I gave him a much more elaborate version of that. And he was like, man, that's really weird. I'm like, yeah, and I don't know why I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do. And he's like, oh yeah, that's weird too. But what's really weird is you and a few other people contacted us saying you feel like you need to go to Ireland and you don't know why. It's like, wow, yeah, that is pretty weird. And so
What about that?
that team was forming. There were 6 of us forming to get ready to go to Cork, Ireland. And about 2.5 years passed of just constantly running into walls and struggles with visas, and nobody was willing to like sponsor us and support us. And eventually
On Ireland's end.
On
Ireland's
yeah,
side.
yeah.
On Ireland's side. And so Phil eventually was like, so here's the plan. We got multiple options, and the ball's entirely in the team's court.
Right.
We can either all stay here and continue doing what we're doing, and whenever the laws loosen up in Ireland, we'll do that. If you all are cool with it, we'll split you temporarily and send you to 2 separate teams. The teams that have space right now are the 2 in England. If none of you want to go to England and you'd rather go somewhere else, we can send you somewhere else.
Conversation.
And so what's interesting is during this whole conversation, I just kept thinking about a conversation Katie and I had about 7 months earlier, when we were on our way back from a missionary thing in Mexico. We were told then that there might be an opportunity, we might have to split you up for a bit. And Katie and I are like, if we're going to be split, like, let's try to get to Nottingham. Like, that would be great. Because I had been there before. It was beautiful. The team was awesome. The students I met were great.
Yeah.
They were just starting off, so I wouldn't feel like I'm, I don't know, having to assimilate into this pre-established thing for like years, where it's like they've only really been around for 3 years in Nottingham.
Right.
It's like it's new enough that I wouldn't feel awkward jumping into that late in the game. And we just talked probably a solid half of the plane ride home.
Right.
And then when he said Birmingham and Nottingham, and we could choose which ones we wanted to go to, I was like, well, I would choose Nottingham.
Nice.
And Phil goes, that's actually a coincidence, because the steering committee and I had decided that we wanted this couple specifically to go to Birmingham. We wanted the 3 other people to be floaters, and we wanted you and Katie specifically in Nottingham, depending on if you were really opposed to it.
Great.
And I was like, wow, that is a coincidence.
What a
or
coincidence.
it's God. So, that was kind of probably a longer answer than you were looking for.
That's
but that was
exactly
like the then to now. Started with passion for youth ministry, and this kind of falls under that bracket of adolescent ministry, the 25 and younger kind of age bracket. But it to me is just ministry.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a 5-year-old or a 55-year-old. You just have to find the right way to talk to them.
Yep.
And if you're using language they won't understand, they're never going to understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still people seeking to know who God is, and in a place where there isn't something like that established for them,
Right.
that's exactly where we need to be.
That's awesome. And you alluded to it, so I don't want to skip over it. But one of the themes of our podcast is everybody kind of finding, where God's leading them to serve in their life, and what life on mission and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes God speaks in a lot of different ways. Sometimes God speaks through Scripture. God speaks through prayer. God speaks through wise Christian people around you. And sometimes God speaks in other ways. Would you please explain how Ireland came to you?
Gosh.
Yeah, that's a weird story.
Yeah.
So,
especially for our relationship too. Good grief.
Yeah. So I was a junior at Olivet Nazarene University, Bourbonnais, Illinois, 60914.
Shout out.
And I was, I don't think I was doing anything wrong, but I just kept feeling like I wasn't going towards something that I should be, if that made sense. And so I basically started praying like, okay, God, I know I'm studying the right things. I know I'm moving towards ministry, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if I'm even moving towards the ministry you want me at, so on and so forth. And I was just praying like, if I start to clear away some of the unnecessary things that are going on in my life, can you start to guide me towards what you want for me?
Yeah.
And so it was like I was a part of a club. I was just too much time and effort. It was a lot of stress. It's like, okay, that's out. It was like random friends that it's like, I like you, but you're kind of a downer all the time, and that's bringing me down. It's like they were out.
That ain't it.
I was dating not Katie at the time, and it was
someone
like,
less than Katie, obviously.
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
much shorter. And it was like, this is fun, but fun isn't a future. And so it was like, that's out. And throughout all that time, I just kept like, okay, God, as I'm clearing away the brush, start to show me the path sort of idea.
I want to interview that ex-girlfriend, and because she knows she was referred to as the brush. That would be awesome.
She's a pastor. She's great.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
But yikes.
We will not tag her on the
Cool.
social
All right.
media posts.
Cheers.
So that was kind of what I was doing. And then there was this one night, it was like 3:30 in the morning. I just could not fall asleep. So I was watching TV on the couch, and I realize it's 3:30 and I've got an 8 a.m. class. And I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta go to bed. At least try to go to bed. And so I was living in a campus apartment with 2 other people and my younger brother. And so we had all of our beds in one room. We had all of our desks in the other room, and then the living room and the kitchen are like obviously community rooms. Everything was a community room. And so I go in. I'm in the bottom bunk. My younger brother's on the top bunk. The other bunk is my buddy Trevor. Top bunk Trevor. Bottom bunk Tom. Tom's a heavy snorer. Trevor is a prankster. So I'm laying there, and my eyes are closed, and I hear clear as day, you need to go to Ireland. And I turn and I look at Tom, and he's snoring. He was snoring while I heard it, so it wasn't him, which means that it's Trevor, right? Because Matthew, like, wheezes when he sleeps.
Right.
We've learned so much useful information.
Right. If we could tag all of them in the notes, that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
So Trevor, I look up Trevor. Trevor's not stirring. Trevor doesn't usually make noise, so I was like, I couldn't tell. So I get out of bed, and I get like face to face with Tom, bottom bunk, just to make sure that he is asleep.
Oh gosh.
Then I get real tall, and I get like face to face with Trevor, and like he's drooling, he is asleep. And then I look over at Matthew, he's asleep. And so I'm like, one of my best friends in the world is the RA. He has a key to our apartment. It's like, maybe he's in here somewhere. So I went into the office, flipped on the light, checked in the closet, nobody. Went in the bathroom, flipped on the light, checked in the shower, checked in the closet, nobody.
I love this.
Went out on the patio, nobody's on the patio.
It's just
Nobody's in the
bizarre.
kitchen, nobody's in the pantry.
Wow.
I go out into the hall of the apartment building, nobody is in the stairwells or anything.
It's 4 a.m. Like.
I go into Rob's apartment because he keeps his unlocked on the off chance somebody needs him. I go into his apartment, he's dead asleep. So I'm like, huh. And so I just go back inside and I get in bed and I'm laying there, and then I hear pretty much the same thing, like, Ireland, you need to go. And at this point I'm like, okay guys. And I go over and I check all of those same things. Everybody's asleep, and I sat in the living room like crisscross, just like racking my brain, like, what does that mean? Go to Ireland. Because at that point, like, I was still, I wasn't sure if I thought that was God or if it was just me being weird and like thinking at like 3 a.m.
Imposing thoughts.
Yeah, imposing thoughts. And I just kept thinking, what would I even do? Am I supposed to do youth ministry? What am I supposed to do? And so I spent all of Christmas break, all of my free time that wasn't with family, researching how does one move to a country without information. You know, like, I didn't know. In movies you just see they grab their passport, pack a bag, and go.
Right.
But it's like
A montage.
that's not how it actually works. So like I even got so deep into it where it's like, I had a pocket knife collection. I would love to bring those. Am I allowed to? You know, would somebody be allowed to have a little pocket knife in their pocket there? Is that illegal? Like, you know, I don't know. Turns out it is. The law is very funny. It says anything pointy, which is funny.
All inclusive, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that, and that's when I talked to Nathan. And so fast forwarding, I had this God moment of Ireland. It needs to be Ireland. Like, that's what we were pursuing, is Ireland. It's like, finally it's like, oh crap, Ireland's not happening. What does that mean? Like, we were told Ireland and it's not happening. What does that mean?
Right.
And we kind of had to come to the conclusion a while ago, I think mostly for our own sanity's sake, but that
definitely 100%.
That just because you're called to a destination doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up. Let me try to rephrase that. Just because the call is one thing doesn't mean that that's what the call turns out to be.
Yeah, and if it was our faithfulness in following that call, and that happened, all of that in the middle of the night stuff happened before we even started dating, and then so that was basically our entire relationship through like dating, engagement, this whole first year of marriage until that was the case. And if it was our faithfulness following that and what our relationship was and what our life was going to look like, even if it's just for the first bit of our marriage and our lives together, that was worth it. If it was just that faithfulness in following that initial calling, then that was exactly where God wanted us to be, whether it was Ireland, England, any of those other global scope ones. That was a mouthful to say. All of that would have been right.
Yeah, and I think probably Christy would agree, like, most large God-following decisions in your life never go from point A to point B immediately. There's always a B, C, D in the middle before you get to where God actually tells you to go.
Yeah.
And something like that was my experience moving to France for sure. I'm sure a lot of Christy's life experiences were similar also. So
Always.
So I can't wait to see what God
makes
happens down the road.
What's really funny is when we met like in passing when she started going to Olivet, and the first time we ever hung out alone.
It's like 3 years after that point.
We were with a friend. He left. We both felt uncomfortable. We ended up going for a drive. And so on
both
the drive,
of us felt like that we would make the other person feel like we didn't want to spend time with them if we didn't say yes to just continuing hanging out, like getting to know the other person. So I don't know, we're both too people oriented to have that not be the case.
I didn't want to hurt her feelings if I just left when my friend left, and she didn't want to hurt my feelings if she left when my friend left. So we're on this drive and it's a pretty classic, college question, like, what are you going to do after graduation? And so we asked each other that, and Katie goes, well, I was going to take a gap year or a couple of gap years and go to Ireland before college, and I really felt like I should do that, so maybe I'll go to Ireland after graduation.
You said, will you marry me?
What I said was, that's crazy. I feel like I need to go to Ireland. Maybe we can hang out when you get there.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wedding ring.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm really excited to have you guys on right now because you're pre-moving.
Yeah.
And so I want people listening to this podcast to really get a lot of feeling for what the world of global impact looks like. And so walk us through the process. Like, what does it look like to sign up to be a part of this, put a team together? What's the process? I mean, like, as far as visas, like, talk us through what has happened so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fundraising?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I had like 3 months of interview processes to get a part of this organization. It was everything from like written essays that ended up being like 40, 50 pages long to I had a psych eval where I had to take this like long test, and then I had to talk to a psychiatrist about my test and stuff like that. Basically, the whole idea is they want to make sure that you understand that this is a big deal.
The gravity and the severity of devoting your life to ministry in another country.
Yeah, and also that like they want to make sure that you're not crazy.
The result of this evaluation did influence my willingness to marry him. I'll put that there.
Okay, sideline, it's like I can't miss it.
Yeah.
My wife and I went through the whole battery of stuff before we moved to, and we took the marriage test. And I'm a very, very positive person, like to a fault. And so we actually,
Relatable.
we took the whole test, and my answers were so positive that they fell out of the realm of reality. So they threw the whole test out.
Oh, that's
So,
funny.
Oh my
so-
word.
I also, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There was definitely a tinge of that when we did our marriage counseling here. That was something that we talked about a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, for myself.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. So that was kind of the first, and then after that, you get, I guess, affiliated into this organization, and then they have a thing called Launch, and that's basically just like everything you need to know in like a 3-day couple of conferences. It's like, here's everything,
Right.
and then here's a packet for when you forget. That was kind of like the thing. And then you get assigned a support coach, which is like for all the finance stuff. You
Cool.
can call and talk, or if you have questions about the fundraising and all that kind of stuff, as well as like, man, if you're just stressed, you can call up your coach or set up a time to call up your coach. So that after launch is what that's called. Then that's when you're expected to start doing the support raising stuff. So you'll get a number of what your monthly number is, and
How much it would cost to live in that country,
Yeah.
as well as do ministry.
exactly,
Right,
yeah. So
definitely.
whatever the total monthly cost is, cut in half. Half of it's ministry, half of it is so you can live.
Good.
Like perfectly right down the middle.
Right.
And so that's when that is starting, and you are supposed to come up with a pretty rough pitch, like write it down, and then present it to your coach, and then your coach gives you pointers on how it went, and like, you know, obviously it's going to change person to person and whatnot, and then you're expected to just go out and start support raising, and it's a lot. It's hard. It's weird asking your friends and family to give you
Yeah, it is.
copious amounts of money for
Right.
extended periods of time,
Right.
let alone strangers.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, but we have had, so most of the people that are supporting us are either family or friends, and then what's interesting is we've got some random people neither one of us have ever met before.
Right.
Like I worked at a bar for a bit there, and I was just casually talking about this with somebody, and he gave us $700 on the spot.
Wow.
Yeah.
He paid his tab and put $700 in my hand and said,
$100 bills, which was
Yeah.
crazy to me. Who carries that on
Yeah,
them
right, exactly.
on purpose?
but he put $700 in my hand and said, "Hey, my wife and I really believe in what you're doing. Good luck out there. We'll be praying for you."
Wow.
And it's just like, holy crap! Like,
Bizarre.
I brought you some drinks and some nachos, and we just casually
Best
talked.
nachos ever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's hard. But then you get moments like that, or we've had family friends where it's like we sat down to like give them this pitch, and before we could even talk, they go, "Hey, before you start going, I just want to let you know that we are going to support you no matter
Yeah.
what for as long as you're there.
Wow.
We don't know how much that number is going to be, but we're going to do this as long as you're there."
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
it's just
specifically
like,
that was
wow.
somebody who worked here at Parkview.
Oh, awesome.
So it's just it's been hard because obviously asking anything money related is tough,
Absolutely.
but especially when it's friends and family.
Yeah.
100%.
And so many people don't, I guess, understand why this part of it is so necessary. The support raising aspect of it is necessary. A lot of people, including some family members, have said like, "Well, why don't you just pay for it?" And it's like, it's kind of not the point. You know, the point is partnering with a community to make something amazing happen. You know,
Right.
and also it humbles us insanely to
Ridiculously, yeah, because that
Yeah.
was even something that took us a while to feel okay with and actually mean it. Like when we're saying that to our friends and family. And this journey not being an easy one has definitely helped that too, especially when we're just finding our footing, like financially and relationally, in our first year of marriage,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what that looks like here, let alone in
Yeah.
another country. And for them to say, "We have you because we believe in this and we support you, and we believe in
Absolutely.
what's going on there."
Even for people who are raising
Yeah.
money for a 1 week, 2 week mission trip or whatever,
Right.
we tell them the reason this is important, we don't want you to pay it all yourself, because we want you to have 50 people around you who are invested in what you're doing,
Mhm.
because that means they're going to pray for you.
Yeah.
It means you're going to be on their
Exactly.
minds. That means they're going to be following what you do. That
Yeah.
they're going to be involved in what you're doing. That's way more important
Right.
than you just write a check or whatever.
Right. And it's beyond biblical too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's that,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, God.
which is why I'm going.
Yeah.
So tell us what your ministry will look like in Nottingham. Did I do that
Yeah,
right?
that was right.
Nottingham, very nice.
So,
Tom would be proud.
It's not quite like ministry how people in the U.S. picture ministry. Ministry here looks like an event or like a weekend thing or like a class or a small group and stuff like that. And over there, what we're going to be doing is more so just, I guess, just existing, but with a purpose, if that makes sense. So the whole idea is we have a space. In Nottingham's case, it's a storefront. In Birmingham's case, it's like a separate little house.
Right.
And the whole idea is, if you want to come do your homework here in between class, come do your homework. If you forgot to make coffee or buy coffee on your way to class and you don't have time to stop at Starbucks,
We'll always
swing
have it
in.
for ya.
We're going to have free coffee, grab it, and go. If you want to come play a board game after class, come. We're here. If you have lunch that you don't want to just eat on a bench somewhere, we've got tables. Come eat lunch.
Right.
If
And
you
then-
want to talk about Jesus, we're here for that too. But we're not going to like throw it in somebody's face and say, hey, we're here to do that, if that
Right.
makes sense.
And then once those relationships are established, there's so much room for curiosity and questioning and just conversation and meeting with students and everything to happen
Yeah.
too. So
And so beyond that function, we do have events,
Right.
things like free dinner. So free dinner is usually accompanied by games afterwards. And so it's
Or a
like, if you want to
movie.
come get free dinner and just eat the dinner and leave, by all means, do that. If you want to eat the free dinner and hang out and know that there is going to be a 5 to 10 minute little talk, but then board games, do that too. There are things like, they call it weekend away, where it's like they just plan a weekend trip somewhere and then they gather up as many people that can go or want to go, and then they go. Stuff like that. There are small groups, so it's like if you want to join a Bible study, we have those. If you want to join a crummy movie watch party small group, we have those too. It's like, they call them small groups, but it could be you watch a movie and then you all sit there and review it together. Or it could be actually sitting down and reading a book or reading the Bible or talking about faith and stuff like that. So it kind of, the starting point is welcome all
And
for
connection.
whatever you want.
Definitely.
And starting that connection.
yeah.
And the idea is, once people kind of get to know us and see that we're not just there to hoodwink them into believing in Jesus, that they'll feel comfortable sort of exploring what that looks like later on.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm just taking a little notes.
Oh,
on
you're
things
good.
You're saying. So, what are some of the big fears or the big questions that are out there for you guys as you get ready to?
everything.
Yeah, at this point, and it hadn't been this way over the last year and a half, David's not wrong. Everything.
Yeah.
Just whether it's financially, whether it's the house where we're going to live in, what the commute's going to be like, if I'll have a job, what that will look like financially within that global scope and CMF like supported budget. And then also just finding a church community that we love and can
Good.
just get involved in and find people that feel like home. And that doesn't mean home here in the United States. That means home in our hearts
Yeah.
and spiritually and with the people that we can connect with.
Absolutely.
And just what our day-to-day life is going to look like. Just because we didn't expect to be a married couple in the United States for so long. We were kind of ready to move last September. And that was
right.
kind of the timeline
Yeah.
that we were ready for. But we have come to really love what life looks like here. And so there's definitely like a little bit of, I don't know, nervous anticipation for what that's going to be in creating our day-to-day there. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Katie's originally from Ohio,
Yeah.
and so all of her family and extended family is Ohio or Pennsylvania all of my family's here.
Yeah.
He's Orland Park born and raised.
Yeah.
Like
And so
his entire life,
like
26
every
years.
single person I've ever met, every friend I've ever made was either here or at college 40 minutes away.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even for Katie, it's like every family member she has is either a 6-hour drive or a 7-hour drive away, 8-hour
Yeah.
drive away. And it's like,
I've always been displaced, like from the people that I love. So I'm really good at long distance.
Nice.
Really, really am. But
But
our
it's
married lives
different.
together, yeah, completely different. Yeah.
yeah, at the
Definitely.
end of the day, it's everybody we've ever known is here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part at the moment is knowing that we won't be able to see them
Yep.
for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Unless we come home or unless they have the money to come visit.
Yeah.
And that, I think, has been the hardest part because everything else is just logistics. And the
Right.
logistics can be hard and it can be stressful, but at the end of the day,
They're not
what-
the things to dwell on
yeah.
because we're not those people either. Yeah.
And although technology is awesome, we're so thankful for all that kind of stuff. But we used to do Christmas mornings with my parents on Skype, their little heads on the screen
Yeah.
as my kids unwrap their presents. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's great, and I'm so thankful for it. But it's not the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, that's super hard. And I'm super excited about this now. Again, like kind of get you guys before. But I'd love to do another podcast in about a year or so after you guys
Oh.
get there and get settled,
Such a
and
good
kind of hear, as you move through the different steps of getting up to speed and investigating the new culture and stuff. I'd love to hear you guys kind of progress on.
Yeah,
this,
that'd
this
be great.
This is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to come visit.
Yeah, that
Oh,
too.
100%. Yeah.
We have family there. We're gonna have to hook you up.
Really? Oh.
So, what would you tell? So you had a very interesting experience in hearing that call from God. What would you tell other people who are trying to kind of figure out their life on mission, or how to figure out what their life on mission is?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think it looks a little different for everybody.
Good.
But at the end of the day, if you're actually seeking what God wants for you and you're okay knowing that it might not turn out how you think it's going to turn out, then I think you're in the right place. Because
Definitely.
at the end of the day, just because God calls you to Ireland doesn't mean you're going to Ireland. It might mean you're going to England instead. So,
Yeah.
Last question, guys. How can our listeners be praying for you in this process?
COVID's been weird.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything is
Gosh.
taking longer than expected.
Yep.
So I guess just prayers that things come through when they need to, and that we can get there before next August.
Oh gosh.
So
Yeah.
that would be great. Because right now the plan is sometime the end of this August or early September.
Yeah. And that's just dependent on paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at this point it's just paperwork, and that's the hard part is once we finish the paperwork, it's entirely out of our hands, and it's just their
Right.
timing and whenever they decide to get around to it.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be the biggest one. Beyond that, just maintaining sanity and stress levels is the lowest they possibly can be given the situations. And
Right.
Yes.
yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad to have you.
thanks for having
Super
us.
excited for you, and like glad to be partners in what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for all of our podcast listeners, you can find more information in the show notes. Information about Global Scope, about Birmingham, about Nottingham, and all those other great
Tom's gonna
places.
So
He's
Totally
close.
gonna kill you.
Tom and Jenna will be livid.
But again, you can also find information about all of our global partners in the show notes, so please check that out. Katie and David, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.